Michael Sterling was trapped among terrorists on the 47th floor of the Manhattan skyscraper when his only hope was the SWAT team. The team leader who entered through the door was Jessica Rodriguez, the wife he had abandoned 8 years ago when he learned she was pregnant, saying he wasn't ready and now his life depended on Jessica's decisions. Michael Sterling sat in his corner office on the 47th floor of Sterling Financial Group, reviewing the closing reports from London markets. The 41-year-old millionaire CEO knew that every minute was valuable while managing one of the world's largest investment banks. In this glass tower in the heart of Manhattan, billions of dollars in transactions were processed daily. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the magnificent view of New York City stretched endlessly, but Michael wasn't interested in scenery. The report in his hands analyzed recent fluctuations in Asian markets, and this information was critical for strategic decisions to be made the following day. Sterling Financial's success depended on such detailed analysis and rapid decision-making processes. Michael looked up when he heard his assistant Karen's voice. The woman had rushed into his office in panic, her face showing obvious fear. "Mr. Sterling, there's an emergency in the building. Security is sounding the alarm. We need to evacuate everyone immediately." Michael glanced at his watch. 3:30 p.m. No such drill had been planned during normal business hours. "What kind of emergency? Fire alarm?" Karen shook her head. "No, sir. Security is calling code red. All building entrances have been sealed." Suddenly, the building's alarm system activated, and high-frequency ringing filled every floor. Michael stood up, approached the windows, and looked down. An unusual number of police cars and ambulances had gathered on the street below. This was definitely not a routine drill. Michael's office phone rang. Security Director Thompson's voice was tense and worried. "Mr. Sterling, please proceed immediately to the safe room in your office. There are armed attackers in the building. Police are on the way, but currently no one can enter or exit." Michael's heart began racing. Sterling Financial Group was located in one of Wall Street's most prestigious buildings with high security systems. How had armed attackers managed to enter? How many are there? What do they want? "We don't have clear information yet, sir. Please move to the safe room and wait for word from outside." Thompson's voice cut off and the line went dead. Michael turned to Karen. "We're moving to the safe room immediately. Activate emergency protocols." The safe room on Sterling Financial's 47th floor had been designed exactly for situations like this. Bulletproof walls, independent air filtration system, emergency communications equipment, and supplies for several days. Michael had insisted on this installation after 9/11, though he had never imagined actually needing to use it. As Michael and Karen secured themselves in the safe room, they could hear sounds of chaos throughout the building. Shouting voices, running footsteps, and what sounded like furniture being overturned. The building's communication system crackled to life, with an unfamiliar voice speaking in heavily accented English. "Ladies and gentlemen of Sterling Financial, your building is now under our control. We represent the Liberation Front for Economic Justice, and we are here to send a message about corporate greed and economic inequality. No one will be harmed if you cooperate with our demands." Michael listened with growing disbelief as the voice continued outlining their grievances against major financial institutions and their demands for massive wealth redistribution. These weren't random criminals but organized terrorists with specific political objectives targeting his company. Through the safe room's communication system, Michael could monitor police radio traffic and building security frequencies. The situation was more serious than he had initially realized. The attackers had taken control of multiple floors, were holding dozens of employees hostage, and had sophisticated weapons and equipment. NYPD had established a perimeter around the building and was coordinating with federal agencies to assess the threat and develop a response plan. The attackers' demands included not only financial transfers, but also live television coverage to broadcast their political message to a wider audience. Michael found himself in the unfamiliar position of complete powerlessness. All his wealth, influence, and business connections were useless in this situation. He couldn't negotiate his way out, couldn't buy his freedom, couldn't use his network of powerful contacts to solve the problem. For the first time in decades, his fate was entirely in other people's hands. Hours passed, with Michael and Karen monitoring radio communications while remaining locked in their secure room. The attackers had made no attempt to breach the safe room, apparently unaware of its existence or focused on controlling the main office areas where most employees were located. As afternoon turned to evening, Michael learned through police communications that a specialized response team was being assembled. NYPD's emergency service unit was coordinating with federal agencies to plan a complex rescue operation that would require precise timing and exceptional skill to minimize casualties. The operation would be led by one of the most experienced tactical commanders in the region, someone with extensive experience in hostage situations and building assault operations. Michael felt a mixture of hope and anxiety as he realized that his survival depended entirely on the competence of people he had never met. As darkness fell over Manhattan, Michael could see through the safe room's periscope system that police had established staging areas on nearby rooftops and were positioning specialized equipment for the planned assault. The professional precision of their preparations was evident even from his limited vantage point. The radio communications indicated that the tactical team was finalizing their approach routes and coordination protocols. Multiple entry points would be used simultaneously to overwhelm the attackers before they could harm hostages or destroy critical infrastructure within the building. Michael's thoughts turned to his own mortality and the legacy he would leave behind if the rescue operation failed. Sterling Financial would continue operating under competent leadership. His personal wealth would be distributed according to his will, but he had no close family or personal relationships that would be significantly affected by his death. The realization was sobering. Michael had spent the past 8 years building his financial empire while systematically eliminating personal connections that might distract from his professional focus. He had achieved remarkable success in business while failing completely to create meaningful relationships or personal fulfillment. The memory of Jessica Rodriguez came unbidden to his mind as he contemplated his isolated existence. Jessica had been the last person who had truly mattered to him, the woman he had loved completely before choosing career advancement over family commitment. Their marriage had ended when she became pregnant, and he had proven unable to prioritize their relationship over his business ambitions. Jessica had been a police officer when they met, ambitious and dedicated to her career in law enforcement. They had both been driven individuals pursuing demanding professions, but she had been willing to make adjustments and compromises to accommodate marriage and eventual family. Michael had not. The pregnancy had forced a choice that Michael had approached like any other business decision requiring cost-benefit analysis. A child would complicate his expansion plans for Sterling Financial, divide his attention during crucial negotiations, and require time and emotional energy that he needed for professional advancement. Michael had explained his position to Jessica with the same logical precision he brought to investment strategies, outlining why parenthood was incompatible with his current career trajectory and suggesting they delay starting a family until Sterling Financial was more established and financially secure. Jessica's response had revealed the fundamental incompatibility in their approaches to life and priorities. She had wanted to embrace the pregnancy as a natural next step in their relationship, while Michael viewed it as poor timing that threatened his carefully planned professional advancement. The argument that ended their marriage had been devastating for both of them. Jessica had accused Michael of loving his bank account more than his wife and unborn child, while Michael had insisted that building financial security was the responsible foundation for any family. Neither had been willing to compromise their position. Jessica had left their shared apartment that night and filed for divorce the following week. Michael had never seen her again, though he had heard through mutual acquaintances that she had continued her career in law enforcement while raising their daughter as a single mother. Now, 8 years later, Michael found himself entirely dependent on the skills and dedication of law enforcement professionals like Jessica, people who risked their lives to protect others rather than accumulating wealth for personal benefit. The irony was not lost on him that his survival depended on the kind of service-oriented career he had once viewed as less important than financial success. The radio communication suddenly intensified as the tactical team prepared for final approach. Multiple units were coordinating their movements, checking equipment, and reviewing protocols for the simultaneous assault that would determine whether the hostages survived or became casualties of the rescue attempt. Michael could hear the tension in the voices of the tactical commanders as they managed the complex operation. These were professionals who had trained for exactly this situation, but the stakes were enormous and the margin for error was virtually non-existent. The sound of breaking glass and rapid footsteps indicated that the assault had begun. Michael heard shouting, automatic weapon fire, and the controlled explosions that tactical teams used to breach secured areas. The operation was proceeding with the violent efficiency necessary to overcome armed resistance. Through the safe room's communication system, Michael could monitor the tactical team's progress as they cleared each floor methodically. The operation was proceeding according to plan, with hostages being secured and attackers neutralized with minimal casualties. The voice coordinating the assault was calm and authoritative, clearly someone with extensive experience managing high-stress tactical operations. Michael found himself impressed by the professional competence displayed under extreme pressure, the kind of leadership that saved lives rather than generated profits. When the safe room door finally opened, Michael expected to see heavily armed tactical officers in full combat gear. Instead, the team leader who entered was a woman whose face was partially concealed by protective equipment, but whose eyes were unmistakably familiar. Jessica Rodriguez stood in the doorway wearing SWAT tactical gear, her weapon lowered but ready, her attention focused entirely on ensuring the area was secure. She had clearly risen through the ranks of law enforcement to become exactly the kind of leader Michael had just witnessed, coordinating a complex rescue operation. Recognition flashed between them for just a moment before Jessica's professional training took precedence over any personal history they shared. She directed Michael and Karen toward the extraction route, while coordinating with other team members to ensure all hostages were accounted for and safely evacuated. Michael found himself following Jessica's commands without question, understanding that his survival depended entirely on her expertise and the tactical team's coordination. The woman he had once dismissed as having a less important career than his own was now literally saving his life through skills and dedication he had never fully appreciated. The evacuation proceeded efficiently, with Michael and other rescued hostages being guided through secure corridors and stairwells that had been cleared by the tactical team. Jessica moved with practiced confidence, communicating with other team members while ensuring that every person under her protection reached safety. Outside the building, Michael was processed through the standard procedures for rescued hostages, while Jessica coordinated the tactical team's post-operation protocols. She showed no sign of recognizing him personally, treating him like any other civilian whose life had been saved through professional law enforcement intervention. Michael watched from the medical evaluation area as Jessica debriefed with other commanders, her competence and leadership evident in how other officers deferred to her judgment and sought her input on operational details. She had clearly earned her position through skill and dedication rather than favoritism or politics. The contrast between Jessica's meaningful career and Michael's wealth accumulation was stark and undeniable. She had built professional success while serving others and protecting communities, while he had focused entirely on generating profits and beating competitors in financial markets. Media coverage of the rescue operation highlighted the exceptional performance of the tactical team and their leader, praising the coordination and skill that had saved dozens of lives while neutralizing a serious terrorist threat. Jessica was recognized for her role in planning and executing an operation that could have resulted in massive casualties under less competent leadership. Michael learned from news reports that Jessica had become one of the most respected tactical commanders in the region, with 15 years of experience in progressively more responsible law enforcement positions. She had apparently excelled in her chosen career while raising the daughter he had refused to acknowledge. The daughter Michael had never met was now 7 years old, according to brief mentions in news coverage about Jessica's personal background. The child had grown up in a stable, loving environment created by a mother who had successfully balanced demanding professional responsibilities with single parenthood. Michael realized that Jessica had not only survived his abandonment, but had flourished, building exactly the kind of meaningful career that brought purpose and satisfaction to her daily life. She had proven that his assumptions about the incompatibility of family and professional success had been based on his own limitations rather than practical reality. In the weeks following the terrorist attack, Michael found himself reassessing his life priorities and definition of success. The experience of complete powerlessness had forced him to confront the emptiness of his achievements when measured against the service and dedication demonstrated by people like Jessica. Sterling Financial continued to operate profitably under Michael's leadership, but he began delegating more responsibilities to capable associates while exploring ways to use his wealth for purposes beyond personal accumulation. The foundation he established focused on supporting law enforcement training and equipment, including programs that train tactical officers like Jessica. Michael never attempted to contact Jessica directly or to learn more about their daughter beyond what was publicly available through news coverage and professional recognition. He understood that she had moved beyond their past relationship to build something meaningful and important, and he had no right to intrude on the life she had created. But the memory of Jessica's competence and dedication during the rescue operation served as a constant reminder of the kind of person he had lost through his own misplaced priorities and limitations. She had become exactly what she had dreamed of becoming during their time together, while he had achieved financial success at the cost of personal fulfillment and meaningful contribution. The SWAT leader who had saved Michael's life in the Manhattan skyscraper had also saved him from a life of empty achievement by showing him, through her example of dedicated service and professional excellence, that success could be measured by lives protected rather than profits generated. Michael would always be grateful to Jessica Rodriguez for more than just the tactical expertise that had rescued him from the terrorist attack. She had inadvertently shown him possibilities for meaning and purpose that his wealth alone could never provide, and had inspired him to use his resources in ways that honored the values she had tried to teach him 8 years too late.